Hi, we're Rhode Islanders, the Healthy Youth, and you can find us on this station every week at this time. And we're very excited today to have as our guest Ralph Wade, who was Pa Walton on the Walton series. Thanks for coming to be with us, Ralph.
It's nice to be here, Claire. Thank you for inviting me.
So, and you said recently you got together with some of the Walton family.
I did. I'm here in Providence to do a play over the Trinity. We've been doing it for 2 months called Other People's Money. And just before I came here, in very late March, Michael Learned, the mother on the Waltons, got remarried. And I went to the wedding up in Pacific Palisades in California, and many of the kids were there. Richard Thomas and the fellow who played Jim Bob and little Elizabeth, and several of the kids were there. It was great to see them. I hadn't seen them in several years. It's been 10 years since the show stopped shooting.
Was it like a family reunion?
Well, it was. It was good to see them because most of the kids are no longer in showbiz. Most of the kids have, for one reason or another, left and have other kinds of lives. One of the young people has had some, one of the kids has had some serious problems with drugs, and he wasn't there. We tried to get him to come, but he was too ashamed. But the rest of them are doing well. The youngest is now a graduate student up at Berkeley, and she's very developed, and I think she's going to be a diplomat or something. She's really she always was about the brightest of all of us, the youngest. But it was great to see Richard, who's been doing, Thomas, who's played John Boy, who's been doing a lot of theater all over the country. And as you know, he has triplets. He has children that are... it was just wonderful to see them. We were together 10 years, and I think we spent more time together than we spent with our own family. So it was almost surprising to see how much we missed each other and how glad we were to see each other. It was really wonderful. I hadn't anticipated it was going to be that joyful an occasion, but it was great.
Well, all of us who are longtime fans would have expected it to be like that, because
it was wonderful.
We kind of got to feel that your family for us too. And it was almost like me.
Well, it was strange because in theater and in television and in film, once something is over, it's such a vagabond life that you rarely see each other. I hadn't seen some of them in several years or heard from them. And you grow apart, and you sort of forget how close you were until you see each other again. You realize we really missed each other a lot. But show business is like that. You get very intense relationships, and then you're on to the next thing, and so it was great to see him.
Now the one that was having the drug and alcohol problems, as you know, that's our focus. And actually, a lot of young adults about the age that your Walton kids would be now fell into that trap. There was so much pressure to use, and it really wasn't popular not to. And of course, if it hits a youngster at a vulnerable, growing time,
well, these kids were in a particularly vulnerable time. They'd gotten all this publicity and all this attention. All of a sudden, it's over. One of the most difficult things about being an actor is, especially when you're young, is to be into like a hit or something very successful, and then all of a sudden it's over, and that's it. They turn out the lights, and that whole life is gone. You go on, and so there was a lot of pressure in this. And one of them, who is a dear man now, is having a lot of difficulties. But I spent a lot of time with young people out in California. I lived down in the desert, down below Palm Springs, in a poor area of the desert called Indio, and we have, in fact, I'm part of a recovery house. And mostly young people. I'm a recovering alcoholic myself. And in fact, this September I'll celebrate 19 years of sobriety.
That's wonderful.
But I've noticed, and I go to recovery meetings continuously, and I think anybody who is in recovery must have some sort of support group, or they're going to get... It's not just stopping the drugs and alcohol, it's what you do with yourself after that, because... if you drank or drugged as long as I did, you get pretty messed up. You're a pretty immature person, and you got to learn how to live even without the stuff. And so you need a support group. And over the years, it's amazing. 10 years ago, most of the people in my support group were in their 40s and late 30s and 50, 60, 70-year-old. Now, at most of the meetings I go to, the kids are between 18, 16, and this is in California, and 23 or 24. Mm-hmm. A whole flood of young people have started coming in the last decade, and it's great to see. One of the problems, and I'm part of this recovery, as we have 50-some people that live there. It's free. If anybody in the audience is out in Southern California and in trouble with drugs or alcohol, that's the place to go, the ABC Club in Indio, California, down in the desert area. One of the problems is that they start so young that they never really get a hold of any kind of education. And it's just amazing to see people who are in their 20s who can't read, for instance, who come to meetings. We read books together. We have what we call a big book, and we pass it around to read parts of it. And many of the young people can't read. Not that there's anything wrong with them. They don't have any developmental problems, but they just spend so much time, on the streets and not paying attention. And it's just sad because in this day and age, and especially the job market today, with the requirements for a much more high-tech society, unless you can read and write, you're really in serious trouble to have a good life for yourself. But it is great to see so many young people coming in.
Yeah, and you mentioned that probably for the last decade or so. Mm-hmm. Before that, they hesitated to go, or they'd go and they'd say, well, it's only for older people, mm-hmm. that kind of thing. So it does make you feel better to see so many of them getting involved.
Right.
Of course, then others will come in too.
And another thing, of course, in the program I'm in is the early on, just 10, 15 years ago, most of the people in recovery were alcohol-related recovery. And now in the recovery programs, everybody's cross-addicted. Everybody who's coming in has drugs and alcohol problem. 10, 15 years ago, that wasn't true. And in recovery work, there's some interesting things going on because most of the recovery work was oriented toward alcoholism. Mm-hmm. And now we have to readjust to allow and to welcome people who have just a drug problem or drugs and alcohol. But cross-addiction is a big new development in recovery. And it does a number on you. I think drugs probably are more devastating in a way than alcohol is in a quicker sense. I think you come to the end of the line quicker. In alcoholism and drug addiction, I'm sure you know, it's the kind of disease that if you are a drug addict or an alcoholic, and of course it's such a disease of denial, nobody will admit it who's doing it. Yeah. But if you are one, the outcome is an early death or insanity. Mm-hmm. It's a devastating disease. People don't always take it as seriously as it is. But I've been around long enough to see a lot of young people come in, and people that I've tried to be of some help to go out and die.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy to be part of this ABC Club and see so many young people coming in.
How do they get the youngsters into the program?
It's a program of attraction. One of the things in the particular group I'm part of, we have a very good relationship with the courts. And a lot of the judges now are alert to and informed about alcoholism and drug addiction. And they'll often divert somebody who's in trouble and rather than send them to jail, they'll send them to the ABC Club. And they have to stay there for 60, 90 days, whatever it is. If they leave, then we have to inform the courts, and then they go to jail. But if they and it's a very open place. It's not like a jail at all. It's just a big dormitory house right in town. But a lot of judges out there, I don't know what it's like here, have diverted kids they think that have a chance, that are willing to try. One of the problems is getting straight, getting your life together is something you can't force on anybody.
Yeah.
So whenever a judge wants to divert, one of our guys goes over, or women go over, and we have women in the house, go over and talk to them. And if they look like they want to do something, then we welcome them. But if they still think they can fight it themselves, or they got their own thing going, then they go to. There's no need to try to help, because you can't help somebody who doesn't want help.
Yeah. About what is the average stay there? About how long?
Well, in this particular place, it's about 120 days, 3 months. First 30 days, you're confined to the facility. That is, you can't have visitors and you can't go out. And it's a detox for the first few days. Just keep an eye on things. But once you've got your 30 days, you can stay as long as you think you need to, actually. Many people stay for a year or so and slowly move back into the community. But 3 months is about the average stay. It's a very unique place. There's not many places like that. One of the problems with alcoholism and drug recovery is that it's become an industry.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are making a lot of money on
Right.
it. And basically all recovery is, as far as I can see, is just Alcoholics Anonymous, the AA program that's used in any facility and I've been amazed to find facilities charging $10,000, $15,000 a month, and then having them for a month and then back out into life. Even, we're close to the Betty Ford Center out there, which is probably the most famous hospital sort of oriented recovery place. They only stay 30 days. And 30 days is not really enough time to get your act together. You really have to kind of redo your whole life in a way and figure out a new way to live. And you can get help that way. But it's amazing how many people are making a lot of money on a poor, sick alcoholic and drug addict. But that's what's happened.
Yeah. A lot of the professionals in the field have, it seems, brought problems of their own into their counseling sessions.
Well, I don't know. I know some counselors, some good counselors, and actually, I've been around long enough to know that you can be pretty emotionally messed up inside, but you can still be a good counselor. People seem to think unless you're really together and really kind of mature and wise, that you can't really be of help. Actually, some of the people in the recovery group, which is non-professional, some of the most messed up people, although they're sober and they're trying, are sometimes the most helpful. Because one of the interesting things about recovery is that you don't have to be a pro, you don't have to be good, all you have to do is be sober and be willing to go through life on a sober basis and take your chances, take your hits, and take whatever you have to take sober. Because the only way you can grow up in this life is if you don't avoid, what you have to deal with in life. And alcohol and drugs are basically, in my life, a cop-out. It's basically a way to avoid dealing with things that are uncomfortable to deal with, like getting a job, like dealing with your wife, like dealing with your children, like dealing with yourself. And as long as you take that stuff to avoid, to cop out, then you never learn anything. It's interesting in alcoholism or drugs, that when I think it's absolutely true too, although it's not scientifically proven. I started drinking when I was 16, heavily. And I stopped drinking when I was in my early 40s. When you stop drinking and drugging, you are at the place emotionally that you were when you started. So I was a 16-year-old in a 40-year-old body. Yeah. And I had to it took me 5 years to get really clear. I was functioning. I was, acting, and I was taking care of, I was supporting in some haphazard way my family. But I was emotionally 16 when I stopped. So you have to learn, and it takes time and patience. So alcohol and drugs is basically a way of avoiding life, and it leads to a lot of problems.
Yeah, and it's not new. The awareness is new, and that's good. But the alcohol-related problems in the family systems and the society have been going on.
That's one of the developments. I think you're right. One of the developments that's happened in the field is that the real recognition this is a family problem. That often in a family where there's one of the parents or somebody is a drug addict or alcoholic, the whole family is diseased by that disease. I don't know, there's a guy named, somebody who's on PBS that describes, not Hamilton, but anyway, the recognition that the family is impacted by this disease in a tremendously painful way over the years. They have programs now just for wives and children of alcoholics or husbands of drug addicts, because the disease infects the whole family.
Yeah. That's when I mentioned the counselors, maybe and some psychiatrists before, when we first started back in the 70s, if a person was under a certain age, they just wouldn't deal with the fact that this person could be an alcoholic. And if a family was together enough to get, as a family, to a counselor, sometimes those counselors did damage. There was one that to one of the parents had said, "You make me sick to my stomach," when the parent was talking about needing the values and everybody working together, and just absolutely split the family apart.
Really?
And we ran into that counselor at a recent conference and said we hoped that that kind of thing wasn't.
Well, I didn't mean when I said that you don't have to be healthy yourself to be of help. I didn't mean professionally. It seems to me professional people should be very, very careful. Maybe I'm old-fashioned. I'm not that sold on professional help with alcoholism and drug. I mean, I know we've become a professional society and people pay a lot of money to get help. But basically, bottom line, anybody that's helped is helped through basically the philosophy and program of Alcoholics Anonymous. Even if you go to a hospital and you spend $25,000 a treatment center, and you have all the psychologists and all the treatment, basically all they're doing is trying to get you into a way of thinking that is like AA. That's the bottom line for all of them. So I'm kind of an amateur-based recovering alcoholic. I think recovery really comes about when someone wants to do something about their life and finds themselves going to AA meetings and on a consistent daily basis, 2 or 3 times a day. I've noticed in Providence that there are something like 80 or 90 meetings a week, for instance, for Alcoholics Anonymous. And that is my way. I mean, sometimes you're in such bad shape that you have to go to a hospital and have to detox. But and sometimes I think people are so emotionally disturbed that they often have to go to a treatment center, recovery house for a while. I walked in off the streets, and most of the people I know walked in off the streets and sat down at an AA meeting and started to listen and wanted help. And you go through a period where it's very confusing. If people need treatment and need recovery, they should go to a facility. I hope there are facilities available so that people who don't have a lot of money can go.
Yeah, that's the problem.
And most of the work I have to do out in California is with people who don't have any resources left. They're down there on the streets. But maybe doctors think that one of my favorite people is a young girl that I met at a recovery meeting many years, 15 years ago, who was 11 when she came in, and she was on the streets, hustling on the streets. And I heard her at an international convention in San Francisco last year. She is now a lawyer.
Oh.
She had nothing going for her. She couldn't write. She was angry. She was a destructive little person. But she sensed that she wanted help, and she sat there. And eventually went back to school and went on to college, and now she's a lawyer, and she was the speaker at this international conference.
Oh,
and 10, 15 years ago, she was just a kid that, you couldn't bring home with you. You couldn't hardly talk to because she was so angry and upset and sick. So recoveries can be remarkable. I mean, nobody is too far gone to get help.
That's something that people need to know.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
You never know. I mean, people that look like they're really gone sometimes eventually come around.
Well, look, you said she walked in that young lady who started using at 11, walked into a meeting?
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm not sure she wasn't made to go there by a judge. A judge sometimes make you go for 30 meetings or something. Not sure quite how she got there. But I remember those early days when people would try to talk to her, she just would, no. I mean, she was really like an animal, a little animal.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing to see what's happened when she got sober. And got off the drugs, and was willing to get help. It's just a willingness to get help. The recognition that you have a problem and desire to, because there's help available, and you can't do it yourself.
And even if it is just the 12 steps, that's something that after you came out of one of the high-priced places, it would be good to lock into, too, because...
You have to. There's no way, as far as I know, and there's no way for you to have any kind of life worth living, even if you're off drugs and alcohol, unless you have some sort of support group. Because alcoholism and drug addiction is emotional and spiritual as well as physical. Right. And you've got to go through, pay the price to learn how to live, to become emotionally, I mean, one of the wonderful things to me about my own recovery is that I was a very frightened person that covered it over with, I had to have booze in order to function. And when they took that away from me, I was scared and I was lost. And what recovery eventually does is give you some courage, give you some dignity, allow you to go through your day clearly and as a human being, and not have to hide and run and cheat and steal and do all those things. And it's amazing to see young people at an early age willing to get help. It's really a great development.
Yeah, I'm glad that's happening now, because we lost so many young people who could have been productive people.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Well, one of the things we're doing out at the ABC Club, I've been gone 3 months now, but as I was leaving, they were starting a program to help, and these are grown people that work, but they're ashamed that they can't really read. So we started a little reading program to help them, get them, learn them. I mean, you can learn to read. Sure. You can learn to do anything if you once you get straight a little bit.
Yeah, that's the first.
Once you're still doing it though, forget it. You're just headed for real sadness and tragedy.
What prompted you or moved you?
Well, one of the things toward getting some help, one of the interesting things to me was, or and some people find it interesting, was that I was drinking heavily when the Waltons started. And the Waltons was instrumental in getting me sober. I would come to work hungover, and I would start drinking during the day when the cameras weren't on, we weren't doing C's. I'd go over and have a drink in my room. And I couldn't go on. I started feeling so bad about playing this father, this loving, caring father, and being half-loaded, that within 2 months after I started the show, I said, I either have to stop drinking or I have to quit the show. It was tearing me up so much. And other things were going on in my life. It was the end of my drinking career. And I don't know how I got that show, because I was drinking heavily when I got it. But playing that father and dealing with those kids and trying to tell them what life was about, I just couldn't do it being a drunk myself. So that was one of the reasons I finally went and got some help, went to a support group. So the Waltons saved my life in more ways than one.
So it hasn't just been helpful to so many.
No. No, it demanded a discipline, and all of a sudden I was in this popular show, and I was making all this money, and I was still this guy who was, really lost inside, really confused and lost. I looked all right outside, I guess, but really confused and lost and frightened. And I had to do something about it. And luckily, that was maybe the final push that got me to go get some help. Otherwise, I would have never lasted on that show. I never could have done it.
And we all would have been poor.
Yeah, well, that's right.
Yeah, we always mention to our viewers that if they just look up Alcoholics Anonymous in the phone book, or Narcotics Anonymous, Al-Anon, Alateen, there are all kinds of groups.
Yeah, there's what they call central headquarters. There's a number that you can call.
It's in East Providence.
Well, there's a lot of good meetings here, and my advice to people who ask me, if they don't know, a lot of people, they think they don't know what to do, is just take your little body and go sit in a meeting and just sit there and listen. And people, if you have enough in you to reach out and shake a hand or say hello, fine. Otherwise, just sit there. Because the basic thing about recovery to me is not that I'm going to do something. I'm going to straighten out my life, because you're past that, whoever is in trouble. is the willingness to get help, the willingness to be available for the help that's available to you. And so I just suggest to people when they ask me, you go to a meeting, you sit there every day.
Yeah.
Every day if you can. Find a meeting, go to one every day. If you can't do it during the day, do it at night. There's meetings at 7 o'clock in the morning, there's meetings at noon, there's meetings 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Go and sit and listen, and something will happen to you if you continue to go. You'll begin to say, hey, wait a minute, maybe there's... My first year of recovery, I couldn't imagine living without booze. I'd done it all my life. I grew up in an alcoholic family. My 2 young brothers, I'm the oldest of 5 kids. My 2 brothers are alcoholics. They're in recovery now. But my father died of alcoholism. And a lot of aunts and uncles died. I grew up in a drinking family with all the dysfunction, as they say nowadays, that goes along with it. So and I thought, there's no way I can live without this, with this a whole change of life, change of attitude. But it happened.
Yeah.
And it saved my life.
Of course, you're here, and we're fortunate enough to have you with us because you're appearing at Trinity Repertory Theater in Other People's Money.
Yeah, they've extended. Actually, it's closing this Sunday, 14th to 15th. But we've been going for 2 months now, and it's been a good, successful run.
And then you go take the show where else?
The play is going to go up to Dennis Playhouse for a week, and then over at Corning, New York for a week. And then I want to take some time and just sit on the beach up in the Cape Cod. My wife is still in the desert, and she's coming east in 2 weeks, and we're going to take a little cottage up there and just do some fishing and hang out.
Oh, nice. I'm glad you come to this place.
Well, I really have enjoyed Providence. It's a very interesting, wonderful place. I know it's in some trouble now economically, but I tell you, it's beautiful. Those houses, and it's just beautiful here.
Yeah, and we really are grateful that you came to share with us. We'd like all of the young people of whatever age to seek help if they're having a problem or if they love. Or
well, there is hope if you're out there and you're in trouble, and you're not, and your folks don't know, and you're secretive and everything. Go get some help from somebody. Go talk to somebody.
Right, and we're Rhode Islanders for Healthy Youth. And good night, Ralph.
Good night, Claire girl.
And we love you.